If your whole life has been spent chasing desires that were never truly yours, then maybe your freedom doesn't lie ahead, but in everything you're brave enough to leave behind. In the next video, I'll show you not how to want more, but how to finally want less and live more. If that's a truth you're ready to face, subscribe, because the world won't teach you how to be free, but we will. They told you to follow your heart. They said desire is your truth. That freedom comes when you do what you love, chase what you crave, and never silence your impulses. They lied. What if I told you your desires are not your own? That before you ever wanted love, status, beauty, or power, someone else planted the seed of that want inside you. You were born into a world already talking: family, media, religion, school. Everything named, labeled, structured. Even before your first breath, you were spoken for. Jacques Lacan, the French psychoanalyst who shattered the comfortable illusions of modern life, said it plainly: desire is the desire of the other, not just another person. The other is the system of signs, the expectations, the collective gaze that surrounds you. You think you want that car, that lover, that dream job. But what you really want is to be wanted, to be recognized, to be seen as worthy through the eyes of the other. The moment you believe you are being free by chasing your desire, you are already enslaved. Your desire is your leash. Every ad, every trend, every social norm whispers into your unconscious what you must chase next. And you obey, not because you're weak, but because you never questioned the origin of your wanting. Lacan forces us to confront a horrifying truth. Desire is structured like a language. It speaks through us. It speaks us. And yet we think we're the ones speaking. So what happens when you achieve the object of your desire? Satisfaction? No. A new emptiness appears. A new lack opens its mouth. You want again. You need again. And the cycle continues. This is not your freedom. This is your prison, built from neon signs, filtered photos, and hashtags of "free living my best life." Lacan doesn't ask you to kill your desire. He asks you to know it, to pierce its illusion. Because only when you realize that your desire is not yours can you begin to ask, what do I truly want? Without the other watching. And in that moment, maybe for the first time, you will taste something dangerously close to real freedom. Not the freedom sold to you in ads, but the freedom to refuse, to desire differently, or to desire nothing at all. The illusion deepens when we mistake freedom for abundance. They hand you endless choices, streaming services, career paths, identities to wear like clothes. But choice is not freedom. It is only freedom's shadow. Lacan warned that the more options we have, the more we are trapped, because each choice is already contaminated by the desire of the other. You think you're choosing, but the menu was written before you arrived. Why do you prefer one body type over another? Why does success look like luxury cars and applause? Why does love feel like a performance on a stage you didn't build? These are not spontaneous truths. They are scripts, codes injected into your unconscious through language, culture, and repetition. Lacan calls this the symbolic order. It's invisible, but it shapes everything you think is natural. It tells you what is attractive, what is respectable, what is normal, and you follow. Even rebellion often follows a script. You become what the other expects a rebel to be. You shave your head, wear black, quote Nietzsche, but deep inside, your rebellion still seeks recognition from the very system you believe you're escaping. That's the trap. Lacan teaches us that desire is never about the object itself. It is about the position that object occupies in the eyes of the other. You don't just want the thing, you want what the thing says about you. You want its meaning, its status, its signal. The gaze of the other is always watching, and you are always performing. Every desire is a message. Please see me. Please want me. Please approve. This is not freedom. This is servitude in disguise. And so the system survives, not by suppressing your desires, but by feeding them. It gives you just enough satisfaction to keep you hungry, just enough recognition to keep you chasing more. If you feel exhausted, anxious, unfulfilled even after achieving what you wanted. You are not broken. You are awakening. You are seeing through the mask of desire. And in that space of discomfort, you are invited to ask the forbidden question: whose desire is this? And what if I stop chasing it? To understand Lacan's view of freedom, you must first understand the nature of lack. Lack is not a flaw in the human design. It is the design. You were born incomplete. From the moment you entered the world screaming and separated from your mother, you were marked by absence, a hole that can never be filled. And it is this hole, this lack, that gives birth to desire. You do not desire because something is missing. You are missing something, and that missingness becomes your engine. But the tragedy is this: no object, no person, no achievement can ever close that hole. You spend your life chasing substitutes: money, fame, love, beauty. But nothing ever fits, because the lack is not outside you. It is you. Lacan teaches that we must abandon the fantasy of wholeness, the lie that one day, through the right partner, job, or moment, we will finally feel complete. That moment never comes. And it's not because you haven't found the right thing. It's because the right thing doesn't exist. The system, however, thrives on your belief that it does. It sells you dreams with expiration dates. It packages fulfillment in seasonal colors. It tells you happiness is just one more purchase away. But the moment you get what you wanted, the thrill dies. A new desire is born, and the chase begins again. This is how capitalism survives, not by meeting your needs, but by inventing new ones. Your body becomes a project, your identity, a brand, your time, a commodity. Even your suffering is monetized, turned into content. You are kept on the edge of satisfaction, always wanting, never resting. Lacan's brilliance was in showing that this cycle is not accidental, it is structural, built into the very logic of desire. And unless you see it for what it is, you will spend your life running after ghosts. Freedom, then, does not come from fulfilling desire. It comes from confronting desire, staring into the black hole inside you and refusing to let it dictate your worth. Refusing to believe that you are broken. You are not. You are human. And the moment you stop trying to fill the void and start living with it, that is beginning of freedom. Lacan's concept of desire is incomplete without understanding the other, the invisible entity that haunts every choice you make. The other is not merely your parents, your peers, or your partner. It is the collective voice of society, the symbolic structure that speaks through you long before you ever find your own voice. It is the grammar of your wants, the architect of your ideals, the mirror in which you learn to see yourself. From the moment you are named, dressed, corrected, rewarded, you are being introduced to the laws of the other. What is good? What is shameful? What is desirable? You internalize these laws so completely that you begin to believe they are yours, but they're not. They never were. Think about it. Why do you feel proud when someone compliments your appearance? Why does criticism sting even when it comes from someone irrelevant? Because you are not living only for yourself. You are living to be seen. The gaze of the other is everywhere. At work, on social media, even in your most intimate moments. And you conform, perform, adjust, not because you want to, but because you feel watched. Lacan teaches that desire is always mediated through this gaze. It is a loop, a trap, a performance. Even love becomes a spectacle. You fall in love, but part of you wonders how the relationship looks from the outside. You get the job, but part of you asks whether it impresses others. The true poison of the other is that it erodes authenticity and replaces it with reflection, your self-worth mirrored back through foreign eyes. Freedom cannot begin until you break that mirror. But breaking it is not easy. The fear of not being desired, not being approved, not being seen. It is primal. It touches the wound of lack. And so, Most people obey the gaze, not realizing they're building their cage with every choice they think is theirs. But if you want freedom, you must dare to disappoint the other. You must risk being misunderstood, unseen, even unloved. Only then can you begin to uncover a desire that whispers from beneath the noise. A desire that isn't performing. A desire that, maybe for the first time, is yours. Nowhere is Lacan's theory more viciously alive than in the digital world we live in today. Social media is not a tool for expression. It is a factory of desire. It turns lives into mirrors, and every mirror is polished to reflect what the other wants to see. You post not only to share, but to be validated. You scroll not only for information, but to absorb what should be desired next. Lacan would tell you that your Instagram feed is not innocent. It is the symbolic order in high definition, constantly shaping the structure of your desire. Every like is a silent instruction. This is worthy. Want this. And you obey. Not because you are weak, but because you're wired to seek recognition. You see someone flaunt wealth, beauty, or love, and a voice inside you whispers, "Why not me?" That voice is not your soul. That is the voice of the other. And every time you respond to it, your desire drifts further away from you. You no longer desire because you lack. You desire because you're told what to lack. Capitalism understood this perfectly. It doesn't just sell products. It manufactures the absence that makes you feel like you need them. You are taught to feel incomplete so that you will crave completion. That craving is monetized. That emptiness becomes profit. That anxiety becomes data. Even the image of happiness has been hijacked. Smiling photos, perfect vacations, luxury aesthetics, they are not personal moments. They are signals, status, updates in the symbolic economy of desire. You don't just want joy. You want the kind of joy that others recognize and envy. And that corrupts everything. Relationships become branding. Success becomes performance. Even healing becomes a spectacle. This is the system Lacan warned us about. A system that doesn't repress desire but inflates it, distorts it, weaponizes it. And the more you chase what it offers, the more you lose your voice. So what's the way out? Begin by silencing the screen. Begin by asking, not what will make you admired, but what will make you real. Freedom begins where comparison ends. And if you have the courage to look away from the mirror of the other, even for a moment, you may find a fragment of desire untouched by the world. A desire that cannot be liked, posted, or sold, but that might finally feel like yours. Desire, as Lacan shows us, is not satisfied by objects. It is sustained by their absence. This is the cruel trick we all fall into. We believe we are hungry for something tangible, something real, the perfect partner, the dream home, the applause of many. But when we finally get what we longed for, something inside us stays empty. The feeling is brief, like smoke. It slips through our fingers. That's because what we wanted was never just the object. It was the promise it carried, the promise of being enough, the fantasy of being seen, validated, fulfilled. But no object can fulfill that promise because the lack is not out there. It is in us. It is who we are. Lacan calls this lack monk, the fundamental emptiness that structures human subjectivity. We chase objects, but it is never truly about them. We chase the feeling of being whole, and that feeling never comes. So we move to the next thing, the next partner, the next trend, the next version of success. This is how the machine keeps turning. Not because we are satisfied, but because we are not. Capitalism thrives on our endless dissatisfaction. It doesn't sell solutions, it sells longing. And every time we believe that this one last thing will complete us, we feed the illusion again. Think of the last thing you truly believed would change your life. Maybe it did for a moment, but the void returned. That return is not failure. It is structure. Lacan never promised a cure. He offered a mirror, and in that mirror you see the truth. The human being is not a vessel waiting to be filled. It is a question that cannot be answered. That's why freedom doesn't mean having everything. It means realizing that the search itself is endless. And choosing in that knowledge to stop being ruled by the fantasy of completion, to live with lack, to stop running. When you no longer chase what cannot be caught, something changes. You start to act not from hunger, but from clarity. You stop chasing recognition. You start creating meaning. And in that stillness, in that refusal to obey desire blindly, you become dangerous to the system. Because a person who no longer believes in the fantasy cannot be manipulated. And that, Lacan would say, is where freedom truly begins. In Lacan's world, there is no such thing as pure pleasure. Every pleasure is tainted. Every joy is shadowed. And this is where the concept of jouissance emerges, a word with no exact translation, because no other language dares to expose this contradiction so openly. Jouissance is pleasure that hurts, enjoyment that burns. It is the moment when you get what you desire, and yet it wounds you. You feel overwhelmed, you feel anxious, you feel sick, but you keep going. You return to it, again and again. Why? Because this pain has become your identity. You find yourself scrolling endlessly on your phone, even though it makes you anxious. You stay in relationships that suffocate you, yet you call it love. You chase goals that destroy your health but tell yourself it's purpose. This is not freedom. This is jouissance. It is the compulsion to keep doing what hurts, because it also makes you feel alive. The system exploits this perfectly. It doesn't just offer pleasure, it weaponizes it. It pushes you to want more, have more, become more, even when it's killing you inside. And the worst part? You think it's your choice. You call it ambition. You call it passion. But Lacan unmasks the truth. You are not choosing, you are repeating. Repeating a pattern of pain disguised as success, disguised as romance, disguised as life. This is why true change feels unbearable, because you are not just letting go of a habit, you are letting go of your symptom. The very thing that gives you a strange sense of satisfaction, the thing that tells you who you are. Lacan called this the jouissance of the symptom, the secret pleasure buried in your suffering. And you protect it, because without it, you are forced to face the void, the lack, the silence beneath the noise. But here's the question. Lacan dares you to ask, what if you stopped? What if you refused the cycle? What if you allowed the emptiness to speak? Not to fill it, not to fix it, but just to witness it. That terrifying stillness might be the only place where something truly your own can begin. Not pleasure, not escape, but presence. That is the beginning of freedom, not running toward desire, but standing still inside your lack without needing to numb it. That is how you break the chains of jouissance, and that is where something real can finally be born. To live freely in Lacan's world is not to silence desire, it is to speak to it differently. Most people believe desire must be obeyed. When they feel a craving, an urge, a want, they assume it must be fulfilled. That assumption is the leash. It is what binds you to systems of control masked as self-expression. True freedom begins when you no longer respond like a slave to your desires, but question them. Ask them where they came from, who placed them inside you, what hole they claim to fill. Lacan teaches that the ethical subject is not the one who gets everything they want, but the one who confronts their own desire and chooses how to act in relation to it. This is the hardest thing you will ever do, because it means breaking the mirror of the other and walking away from the fantasy it reflects. It means choosing not to be liked, not to be celebrated, not to be seen. It means accepting that no achievement will ever make you whole. And that is terrifying, but also liberating, because when you stop needing to be completed, you start becoming. You begin to act, not for applause, not for validation, not for attention, but for truth. Your truth, even if no one else understands it, even if the world calls you strange, lost, broken. There is a power in standing in your lack without shame, a power in creating from absence rather than consumption. In that space, you are no longer a puppet dancing for the gaze of the other. You are the writer of your own riddle, not because you have the answers, but because you are no longer afraid of the question. This is what Lacan meant when he said the subject must assume their desire. Not the fake desires sold by the system, not the fantasies whispered by the crowd, but the singular thread of longing that remains once all noise is gone. That desire may not lead to comfort. It may not lead to wealth, fame, or success, but it will lead to you. And when you follow it, not blindly, not obsessively, but with awareness, you step outside the cage. You do not destroy the system, but you are no longer its servant. You are a subject with choice, a being who does not escape lack, but dances with it. That is what it means to be free. Most people never ask where their desires come from. They only chase. They run from one thing to the next, one ambition to the next, one relationship to the next, never stopping long enough to question the engine underneath. But Lacan asks you to pause, to look beneath the surface, to realize that what you call yourself may be a performance staged for the gaze of the other. Your goals, your preferences, even your sense of right and wrong, are they truly yours? Or are they fragments of a story written by voices you never chose to listen to? The family that told you who to become, the media that told you what success looks like, the culture that told you what to desire. When you finally wake up from this hypnosis, something strange happens. You feel lost, empty, afraid. Because once the script is torn away, you're left with silence. No instructions, no roadmap, just the raw question, what now? That moment is sacred, because in that silence, you can begin to hear a different kind of desire, one not shaped by status, not driven by fear of rejection, not addicted to recognition. It may whisper faintly, does not mean being full. It means no longer being possessed by what you lack. It means choosing your path, not because it is easy, but because it is real. In a world obsessed with pretending, that choice is revolutionary. That choice is yours. This is where it all comes together. You are not broken. You're not failing because you're unhappy or restless or still searching. You're human. And to be human, Lacan reminds us, is to be incomplete, to be structured by lack. That lack is not your enemy. It is your truth. And desire is how that truth speaks. The system wants you to forget this. It wants you to believe that freedom is consumption, that happiness is performance, that your worth is measured by how well you mimic its script. It wants you obedient, not with chains, but with dreams. Dreams you didn't write. Desires that are not yours. But now, you've seen through the veil. You've felt the emptiness that no object can fill. You've questioned the fantasy that something, or someone, will complete you. And in doing so, you've stepped into a new kind of freedom. Not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to ask, do I truly want this? That question alone is a radical act. It breaks the mirror. It disrupts the machine. It makes room for something authentic. Maybe you'll walk a path that others don't understand. Maybe you'll stop chasing applause. Maybe you'll stop curating your life for the gaze of the other. And maybe, just maybe, you'll begin to live, not as an echo of someone else's expectations, but as a subject who dares to choose even when it hurts. That's what Lacan meant by assuming your desire. Not indulging it blindly, not silencing it completely, but owning it. Taking responsibility for it, carrying it like a flame that can't be bought, copied, or sold. This isn't easy. Real freedom never is. It requires silence. It requires solitude. It means risking rejection. It means risking failure. But it also means something else. It means living with your eyes open. It means finally escaping the exhausting race of trying to be someone for everyone. It means discovering that your value was never in being desired, but in daring to desire differently. The world may never reward you for this, but it will feel real. And in a world addicted to illusion, that reality is priceless. So now the mirror is cracked. The fantasy is broken. The question remains, will you, the lonely, luminous path of freedom? The choice at last is truly yours.